Steve?
Yep, I've muted it, but you are live on iOS.
All right, we are live, and now I can open up Peter. Hopefully we are getting live here. There we go. Yep, you're right, Steve. 5:32 was the last one. Oh, well. We are on, sorry, we are a little bit discombobulated here because I was off at the doctor lately. Today, I read lately because I was reading Haley has not been feeling well, and that's why she hadn't been here. But we are here at an early hour of 3 o'clock because Steve and I are going off on vacation. So we thought we would go ahead and do the show a day early. We have pretty much none of the regulars here today, but that's fun because we get people. Oh, Brett's in the show. So we've got, let's see, Donald, Steve, Brett, Chattybot, love Chattybot. Haley made it in. We've got, let's see, Steven is Kiwi Spoon, and Muddy is Arthur, I think, and Patrick H. Is that Patrick Hennebree? It might be. Would love to know if that is. And Splygosh is Nick is here. So we are ready to go, and and we got another Steve bringing up the rear here. So this is going to be a fun show. We have a big show, big show. I was in danger of being a little bit late because something is wrong with one of the pod foots. So I got something wrong with my foot. I was over at the doctor. We thought we might have a delay of game, but luckily they got me in and out. Here's a funny little bit of information. You know how if you're at the doctor and they're taking forever to get to you and you complain you got a meeting to go to? They don't care. If you complain that you got to go to the movies, they don't care. If you complain you got to go to lunch, they don't care. But if you tell them that you're going to be on a radio show and you're the host, man, they like scramble to get ready for it. They said, what channel is it on? And I said, the internet. They didn't seem to care quite as much, but they still thought it was cool. So let's see. Steve Brett is asking whether the audio is live on the iOS app yet. Can you answer him in text there? It is hot in here today. So I think I'm going to go ahead and let me do a test recording, make sure everybody can hear me. Here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com. All right. And we should be, does it look like people heard that? I need 30 seconds to find out, 42 seconds to find out.
Yeah, that sounded good.
Okay, it sounded good to Steve. Any luck, they should be able to hear it as well. Actually, if you heard it in the Hangout, I think we're okay. That means they got it too.
Yeah, they'll just hear it in another 20 seconds.
Poor guys. All right, I think I'm ready for you to go mute, Steve. Let's go ahead and get the show started. Here we go. It's hot in here. Did I mention that? All right. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Macintosh bias. Today is Saturday, July 25th, 2015, and this is show number 533. We have a huge show today. I've got some great tech stories for you, an automator script I wrote all by myself. I'm going to tell you about all the fun I had tearing apart a MacBook Air and a terrific service Steve found that helps stop robocalls. You're going to love that one. In Chit Chat Across the Pond, Steve joins Bart and me to talk about all the exciting information we're learning about Pluto from the New Horizon spacecraft. It's a great conversation, and I know you're going to love it. It's fantastic. We had so much fun. Well, remember, next week we will not have a live NosillaCast show on August 2nd because Alistair Jenks has kindly agreed to do the show for me while I'm on vacation. If you've got a review you've been thinking about doing, please send them along to me and I'll forward to Alistair for inclusion in his show. I really appreciate him doing this for me, and I hope you'll help him out. And remember, if you pay the whole $2 for Donald Burr's amazing iOS app, you can always see when the next live show is. You can listen in and chat with folks in the live chat room. And if you have an Apple Watch, you can even get notifications on your wrist. If you're interested in helping beta test, or it might even be alpha test at this point, let's see, an Android app that he's writing for the NosillaCast live show, go ahead and I guess shoot me an email. I forget what email address he wants, but shoot me an email at allison@podfeet.com and I'll make sure you get on board with the new beta. He's going crazy. He's a nutcase. He's having a real good time with Android over there. One more thing before we get started. This week, we recorded a new episode of the Mac Roundtable. That is 2 months in a row. I want you to notice that. Anyway, I had a great time with Don McAllister, Chuck Joyner, and Victor Cahill. We talked about the earnings call this week, how we feel about Microsoft Office 2016 for the Mac, and even a little bit on Apple Music, of all things. Go check it out over at macroundtable.com. It's episode number 228. All right, let's dig into the show. I'm slightly more organized about my photos than the average bear, as we've discussed in the past. I like to name my photos so that at any time, if someone mentions, say, Halloween costumes, I can grab my phone, instantly show them the photo of the amazing bat costume my father made for my brother Grant in 1965. It takes a lot of discipline to keep up with this. But there's a problem. Let's say I want to post a big pile of photos online as a nice album. If I carefully name every photo and then do an export from the Photos app, they'll be on my desktop in alphabetical order. That means when you look at the album, all you're going to see at first are pictures of Allison. Now, I'm as big of a narcissist as the next guy, but I at least like to sprinkle myself throughout an album, not front load it. What I want is to be able to post my photos in the order in which they were taken. Maybe sometimes I might want to reorder the photos inside the Photos app first, just to make it a little bit more interesting flow of a story. I would want them to stay in that order when exported and posted online. In Aperture, you could export to the file name or add a trailing or leading sequence number. That worked great. I could export my images with a number up front, so they'd be 010203, followed by the file name or followed by the title of the photo, instead of it being Allison, Allison, Allison. Unfortunately, Photos lets you choose either to export to the title of the photo or to a sequenced image, but not sequence plus title. There's some great folks working on scripts to do the export over in Apple Forms, but I didn't have a lot of success with them. And Dorothy had left me for 2 months to go to Alaska on her boat, so I couldn't get her help, and I gave up on those scripts. But then I had an idea of my own. It's clumsy and inelegant, but it actually works pretty well. I created an automator script. First, I name all my photos over in Apple Photos and I export them to a folder. So that's where they're in alphabetical order. I select all of the photos in the folder and then I launch my automator script from the Services menu. So File, Services, where I put it. It copies the images to a new folder called Sequenced Images. If the folder doesn't already exist, Automator creates it. I have no idea how I got it to do that, but it actually works. Next, it sorts the images in order created. In theory, this will be the order that Photos exported them, which should be the order I had them in the album in Photos. It gets close, but sometimes a photo here and there seems to be out of order, but not like way out of order. They're just like these two were switched. The only thing I can figure is that the export process might be so fast that the timestamp on them is identical out to the number of decimal places, so order modified gets kind of confused. By the way, I do that copy to a new folder first, just in case the script goes wrong on me. If you get it working and you like it, you can get rid of that step. The script renames the images using an option called Make Sequential, adding a number preceding the existing name. I even tell it to make it 3 digits long, just in case I have a giant pile of images to post. Finally, it exposes the nicely numbered pages in date order for me in the Finder. I'm pretty darn impressed with myself that I figured out how to do this all without Dorothy's help. I guess she's a good teacher in spite of all the complaining I do. I'm guessing there's an easier way to do all this, but I had fun and it solved my problem. If you want to download my Automator service and have a play with it, I put a link in the show notes to it in Dropbox. And I should tell you it's in zip format because an Automator script is actually a pile of files. So you have to download it, double click to open it, and then run it as a service. The other good news is that we will be getting a new version of Photos in El Capitan, and maybe, just maybe, Apple will give us sequenced images with title as an enhancement. I've suggested it enough times over on apple.com/feedback. All right, Steve's been I am seeing your text messages, Steve. I am going to go and do not disturb. I thought you were talking to me in chat here. All right. What did I miss? Looked like a lot of fun going on. Who else came in? Did Patrick ever say if that was Patrick Kennebury? It says Patrick H. We've just been chatting a little bit. Oh, Alistair made it in. Man, we are well represented on the New Zealand front. Active transplant list. That's good news, isn't it? Excellent news, Haley. That's good. That's really good. Let's see. I looked into his old phone. Actually, Alistair, you're in the chat room. Alistair is talking about trying to use the Spotlight index, and Spotlight always returns the file date instead of the capture date. Talk to Dorothy about that because she's looking at another problem for me, and she's running into the same thing. She thinks it might actually be a bug that it's not returning the capture date. Yeah, the problem a guy named Matthew sent in. He's got 9,000 photos in Photos with the JPEG raw pair, and he wants to get rid of all the RAWs, and he's asking how to do that. And I suggested she write a script that helped us find the all of those pairs in the Finder, but you have to drill down into the package file to do that. Might be a little bit dangerous thing to do, but he says he has lots and lots of backups. So anyway, let's see. Haley is running El Capitan on a 2012 MacBook Pro. Good. Is there a new version of Photos in there yet? I don't think they have put the new version of Photos in the beta. Let's see. Oh, I can't save. Let me do a save as. That's why. Okay. NosillaCast audio. There we go. NC 2015 0725. There we go. Save. It is Patrick H. Good. Nice to see you, Patrick. Glad you could join us. I have not read your latest email, and I have not responded. I have many thoughts, but I always feel like it would be more fun if I do a nice response. All right. Let me keep going here. My neighbor Nyla across the street has an adorable baby girl. As many of us all know, small children and laptops can be a terrible combination if there's any liquid nearby. The good news is that the little girl only knocked a water glass over into Nyla's MacBook Air. Nyla took it over to Apple, and they told her it would cost more to repair than it was worth, so she bought a new machine and moved on with her life. I begged her to let me take a look at it and see what I could do. The model is a mid-2012 MacBook Air 120 gigabyte SSD with 4 gigabytes of RAM. Not a powerhouse by any means, but it sure seemed to me to be worth trying to save and not sell for scrap parts. I did an article recently for Don McAllister's Screencast Online magazine for iPad, which you should totally go get and read. Anyway, I did an article this month on how fun it is to tear hardware apart and how I regret all the years I was afraid of doing it. I walked down memory lane talking about how easy it used to be on the old Mac Pros, to how hard it was when Pat Dengler let Steve and me tear apart an old desk lamp iMac, to how it had turned into a jeweler's skill on the iPhones, and how Honda Bob and I conquered that task anyway. I've really gotten the bug to fix hardware, so I thought this would be a fun project. I should start with the symptoms of this dead MacBook Air, which of course is the problem to be solved. The Mac boots up just fine. All the data is there. The SSD is functional. Display is fine. But a few seconds after it boots up, it asks, "Are you sure you want to shut down?" You know that menu you get if you accidentally bump the power button that asks you, do you want to shut down, restart, or cancel, or maybe sleep? No matter how many times you say cancel on this Mac, it just offers to shut down again. I turned on the Google juice, and it appears the power button itself is shorting out and sending that shutdown signal. I like working on hardware like when there's nothing to lose. That's a lot more fun. If I fail, my friend can still sell it for parts. If I succeed, I've revived a valuable machine. She also said if I revive it, all I have to do is pay her what she was going to get for scrap. In my research, I was directed to an all-time favorite site, iFixit.com, where they explained how to replace the upper case. If you open a laptop, you see metal with a keyboard sticking through it, right? That's the upper case. The problem is that to get to the upper case, you have to flip the laptop upside down and remove everything in the computer before you get to it. And I mean everything. iFixit gives you an idea how hard repairs will be, and it listed this one as difficult with 42 steps. Yikes. Well, let's say I don't break anything getting this laptop taken apart. What are my options to do the repair? I looked up the value of the 2012 MacBook Air online, and sold auctions on eBay show it's only worth $550 at most if it's fully functional. Like I said, it's only got 128 gig SSD, 4 gigs of RAM, and an i5 processor, so I guess that makes sense. It's not worth that much. I then looked up how much it would cost to buy a replacement upper case. iFixit has reconditioned, tested upper cases listed for $200 or new for $250, but the used one wasn't in stock. So you're looking at $250 for the part. Well, what's it worth if you sell it for parts? It's worth $250. So I can spend $250 in an upper case, and I raise the value from $500 to $550. Definitely not worth buying a new uppercase. I guess the thing that makes the laptop worth something is the uppercase itself. Perhaps liquid damage always affects the keyboard, and that makes it the most useful thing to replace. Now we know that the only financial viable path is to try and fix the short in the keyboard or sell it for parts. I set aside an afternoon and I tucked in. My plan was to try and use rubbing alcohol to clean the contact between the power button and the circuit board, which seemed like a pretty good plan to me. Let's walk you through all you have to do to get down to that upper case. Remove the screws holding the bottom case to the laptop. Unplug the battery so you don't short anything out. Disconnect the I/O board cable. Remove the fan. Unplug the camera. Unplug the left speaker. Unplug the microphone. Unplug the volume control. Remove the I/O board. It has USB power and the headphone jack on it. Remove the batteries. Unplug the trackpad. Unplug the backlight cable for the keyboard. Disconnect the right speaker. Disconnect the display cable. Disconnect the airport Bluetooth cables. Remove the SSD. Pull out the entire logic board. Tear the display case right off. That's a scary step. Pry off both speakers. Pull out the microphone. Unplug the other end of the trackpad cable, single hardest connector in the whole process, and pull out the trackpad. That's all 42 steps. I'm going to take a breath there. Did you like that, Steve? You're the only one who's heard it so far.
Yes, very good, dear.
That was funny.
I think I saw at least 2 of those disassembles.
Yeah, I think so. Whew. All right. All right, here we go. Keep going. Stop and save. All right, what did I miss? Ooh, she says, Haley says that El Capitan appears faster. By the way, I've heard people say El Capitan. Huh. Let's see, did she do a clean, asking if she did a clean install. Spotlight reindexing. Okay, Spotlight reindexing. Can I talk about that for a minute? Let's see, who just wrote about that? Splygosh, yeah, Nick. That Spotlight indexing is driving me bonkers on this machine, on my little MacBook. This thing, it says MDS all the time, 100% MDS, just index, driving me crazy. I can stop it and it's fine till later when it starts doing it again. It is driving me nuts. Oh yeah, all on Clarify, right, Nick? That would have been good. All right, let me keep going. I printed out all 42 steps and I got started. I did the printout because I decided with a project this complex, I should tape the parts down next to the steps so I'd be sure not to get things mixed up. I actually got this idea from Dave Hamilton as he was describing how he and his daughter Skylar do it when they take an iMac apart. Ooh, is it Skylar or is it Skylar? Steve, do you know? Skylarer.
I'm sorry, who is this again?
Dave Hamilton's daughter, Skylar.
I think he pronounces it Skylar, but I'm not sure how it's spelled. I could, but the pronunciation is all you care about right now, right?
Yeah, but I've got it in an...
I'll go look up this spelling, but I think it's Skylar.
Okay. I'm going to take that out and I'm going to say it's Skylar. I may vamp for a moment while Steve figures that out. And if it's Skylar, I'm going to want to go... If it's ER, I'm going to want to fix that because I was going to text him. Oh, you know what? He sent me a message. Let me see.
It's Skylar.
Okay, it is LAR.
But I don't think it's Skylar. I don't know. I haven't heard him pronounce it that way.
Have you heard him pronounce it?
Yeah.
What should I do? Skylar. All right, I'll say Skylar. Sounded funny the way I said Skylar. My light just blinked again. All right, here we go. I printed out all 42 steps and I got started. I did the printout because I decided with a project this complex, I should tape the parts down next to the steps so I'd be sure not to get anything mixed up. I actually got this idea from Dave Hamilton as he was describing how he and his daughter Skylar do when they take an iMac apart. She is his able assistant on a lot of those activities. Now, the printout isn't good enough alone. You kind of have to have it on a Mac also because a lot of these connectors are so teeny tiny. You've got to be able to zoom in on the photos. And iFixit has high res version so you can zoom in. So I'm kind of balancing. I've got a second Mac with the photos on it, and I've got the paper, and I'm taping things down. And oh, it was really fun. I want to stop this description right here, though, and give you some valuable advice. When you embark on an adventure like this, look at the last step and determine whether that's where you need to be. Didn't occur to me to do that, and it would have been a much shorter and less complicated adventure if I had. The 42 steps assume that you have an upper replacement case and you're going to swap it out. So the instructions how to tell you how to remove everything from the case. I didn't have a replacement case. Remember, my goal was just to get down to the keyboard, figure out a way to clean the contacts on that darn power button, and then put it back together. So when you heard me say that one of the things I did was rip the upper case off, I completely pulled apart the display from the rest of the machine. I didn't actually need to do that. It was fun, but I didn't need to do that much. So if you're going to do this, really look at the last step. I can also highly recommend that you read the comments on the steps. So there's two little brackets that you need to disconnect in order to pull the display off. And it said they were T8 screws, Torx 8 screws. And we had a heck of a time. I actually had to have Steve come help me. We're trying to get this thing to turn, and it felt like it was slipping. Well, it turned out it was slipping because it was a T9 screw. And the comments say that, but iFixit hasn't fixed it. So read the comments, read the last step to see if it's where you want to be. All right. So anyway, here I am with just the uppercase, which, like I said, is a piece of metal with a keyboard embedded in it. From the inside, there's a thin black film over the back of the keyboard. Now, I'm kind of off-roading it here. I don't have any iFixit instructions to guide me. So I peeled the film off. Now there's a sheet of plastic over the back of the keys that's kind of unusual. It's clear in places where the keys are, and it's little white dots in what look like random locations. It took me a couple of days to figure out that this has something to do with the backlight on the keys. There's no electrical connectivity to the backlight, but they line up too well to be anything else. This was also stuck down just with glue, so I carefully peeled that off. Now, finally, I can see the metal backplate under which are the keys. I saw around 40 screws holding it down. I say around, I think there were 38 when I started, and there should have been 40, but then I lost one. So anyway, we'll call it 40. 40 tiny, itty bitty screws. If you're familiar with screw sizes, they were double-aught, which means they're just a smidge bigger than a flea. They were super easy to take out though, so that was really fun. But then I hit a wall. The 40 double-aught screws had no function whatsoever because the keyboard was held to the metal plate via plastic metal rivets. I remember years ago my dad telling me that nails in furniture are only there to hold the pieces together till the glue dries. Evidently, these baby screws were there to hold it together till the rivets cooled down. I could not get the two pieces apart. So I used a Q-tip with some rubbing alcohol on every surface I could find, and I tried to get some under the metal as best I could, and I put it all back together. Remember those teeny tiny flea-sized screws? It took me 30 minutes to put those back in. The driver magnetized itself by that time, so the little screws would flip around and stick to the side. Drove me nuts. I tried to hold them between my finger and my forefinger and my thumb, and it would slide down too far between the two, and I couldn't reach. It was a nightmare. Anyway, getting into the laptop, following the instructions very, very carefully took an hour of my time. Took me an hour to get back out because of those silly screws. It should have been a lot faster putting it back together. All right, moment of truth. Time to see if I fixed anything. I booted it up, and immediately the fan started going nuts. Came up, but it took about 4 times as long as normal for me to get in. The good news is that it did not go into auto shutdown mode. Yay! The bad news is it was because the keyboard and trackpad were non-responsive. Must have skipped a connector along the way. That did pretty much verify that the keyboard was the problem, though. This is when I stole another idea from Dave's daughter, Skylar. She is evidently in charge of making sure that Dave reverses the process correctly, reconnecting every connector, replacing every screw as they go backwards through the instructions to put things back together. I decided I would make check marks next to each step as I disassembled, then I have to cross through the check mark when I put it back together. I am now dubbing this the Skylar maneuver. Sure enough, one connector wasn't seated at all, and it was the one from the trackpad to the logic board. The bad news? After I properly put it all back together, it booted up, and then it asked permission to shut down. It was only at this point that I had a revelation. If I can't get to the power button from the underside, why not just pop the darn key off and get to it from the top? Why didn't I think of that ahead of time? I found videos online for the specific model. You have to be really careful as MacBook Air keys are different from MacBook Pros, so they pry off differently. And I pried off the key. I did pull the battery connector so I didn't short anything out, and I doused the power key with ever-increasing amounts of rubbing alcohol. It was a pretty quick process now to use the alcohol, wait for it to dry, plug the battery back in, test and repeat, but that didn't fix the problem. At this point, I called Dorothy's husband, Mark. While Dorothy is my go-to for software problems, Mark is really into hardware, so we talked it through, and he suggested I use one of those compressed air canisters. He recommended turning the canister upside down so that the liquid propellant would blow into the key and dislodge whatever's making that connection. Not just air, but this propellant could help clean it by running it underneath. He said the propellant has a really low dew point, so it's cool because it boils off at room temperature. You can actually see it and hear it boiling. I tried it from above on the key side, but it didn't fix the problem. By the way, he mentioned that he said you could try to use contact cleaner, but he thought that would be too destructive. So he told me not to use contact cleaner. Anyway, then on Friday night, while Ron and Steve and I had gin and tonics, which, is always a good idea when you're doing hardware repair, I tore it down to step 28, which is where the fan, speakers, microphones, cameras, SSD, and logic board are removed, and I could peel the film back off the keys again. I shot as much propellant into the power keys as I could from every angle and, sort of prying the metal up a bit as I sprayed, and I gave it an hour to cool down and for the propellant to boil off, and I put it all together, and guess what? It's still broken. I love that story. Uh-oh. Kim is late to class. Hey, at least you made it here. We didn't get, haven't seen Kevin. All right. That was nice of Patrick to show up. That's fun. Oh, no. Patrick said he's going to stay next week. Did somebody tell him that there isn't a show next week? Maybe you guys could get together on Sunday night just in case and see if, and just hang out. We'll be around next Sunday, by the way. We could hang out on Sunday nights. On Sunday night. Let's see. Nick says, why is it whenever there's a description of doing stuff inside a computer, there's always a part that says gently remove blah, which translate as prise it off with a large screwdriver while hitting it with a hammer? That's absolutely true. I did find someone who showed how to get the keyboard apart, and basically it is pry it off. I mean, it's completely destructive, so it's no good at all. All right. It's hot in here. Kevin won't be here as dinner guest. Okay.
Do you want a fan, Allison?
It makes too much noise. I do want a fan, but I'm not going to ruin the recording for it. Thank you, though.
Ice Cube?
Ice Cube, yeah. Actually, I wonder if the fan all the way across the room wouldn't be a bad idea. I can go turn it on. Hang on just a second. Oh, I bet you guys can hear that. You can hear that, can't you, Steve? You're muted. Yeah, that's too loud.
Wait, I'm not sure I can hear it. Al, I don't think I heard that. I don't think I heard that. The fan.
I can see it on the recording.
Well, it must be below the threshold that we can hear.
Huh. Well, I'll survive.
All right.
All right.
Trooper.
Oh, I would have thought Allison had enough fans. Plenty of fans. Thank you, Nick. That's sweet. 12C out. Wow, Alistair, you're having a heat wave. Uh-oh. Okay, let's see. All right, now it's this is going to be a big Steve show. Let me tell you. Here we go. Oh, Alistair, how are you doing? Has anybody sent in any recordings? I went ahead and told people just to write to me, because I might be able to do a recording possibly about. I got a couple of dumb questions that are fun from Linda Goucher. All right. Let me know if you want me to do a recording for. Oh, I gotta make a clarify ad. I should have let you do the clarify ad. I did the. I used you as the clarify ad this week. You'll like it. Here we go. How did that end? Put it all together, and guess what? It's still broken. Okay. There you go. Well, Steve is an avid Reddit contributor and reader. And when the proverbial stuff hit the fan a few months ago that PayPal was going to start robocalling its customers, Reddit was on fire about the topic. Since then, PayPal has dropped the idea, so don't worry about that. Anyway, Steve was reading the rants on Reddit, and someone mentioned a service called NomoRobo that they swore had almost eliminated robocalls to their house. I'm sure you think that you get a lot of robocalls at your house, but you truly do not know how horrible it is until you're home all day. And I got to tell, since we've retired, it is unbelievable how many calls go through. And if you're not home, your phone is just ringing. These are going on. You just don't know about it. We get calls constantly. You miss so many of them, like I said, because they hang up and don't leave a message, but we're there to hear them. Sure, it's easy to skip the ones that have their name showing on the phone, but it's still annoying as all get out because it's ringing and ringing and ringing. And yes, we are on the do not call list, which is a joke. I really think that maybe the robocallers bought that list and use it to make their calls. One of my favorites is American Red Cross. Sure, I signed up and I give blood, but does that give them the right to call me 3 times a week? I've asked them politely not to call me. I've asked them impolitely. I've asked them with venom and anger. And I've even threatened to tell them I have some horrible blood disease if it would just get me off their gosh darn list. They called me the next day. Well, Steve decided to check into the service he'd read about, NomoRobo, over at nomorobo.com. They're a free service that screens all calls made to the phone number you specify and compares each call to an extensive blacklist of phone numbers associated with illegal robocallers. If the incoming call is on the blacklist, NomoRobo picks up the call so it rings only once at the specified phone. If it rings twice or more, it's not a robocall and you can pick up the call normally. NomoRobo does not block legitimate robocalls such as doctor's office, prescription reminders, school closing, weather advisories. It only blocks illegal robocallers. NomoRobo's blacklist of phone numbers is extensive and current since it's updated by input from NomoRobo users. The user can also correct for a call that was blocked but shouldn't have been. There are some requirements for joining. You must have a digital landline, for example, Verizon Fios, AT&T Uverse, Comcast, Xfinity. NomoRobo does not support traditional analog landlines or wireless phones at this time, although they may add that service to those type of phones in the future. The process for joining, which is a one-time setup, is as follows. You start by going to the NomoRobo website to specify the phone line type and carrier you have for the phone you want screened, and you provide your email address. The site will tell you if your phone line and carrier is eligible for the NomoRobo service. If your line carrier is eligible, NomoRobo sends you an email to confirm your address and directs you to a website where you enter your name and a password to set up your NomoRobo account. NomoRobo then provides you with instructions on how to complete the process. The final steps including going to your carrier's website and enabling something called simultaneous ring using your phone number and a phone number supplied by NomoRobo. This causes all calls made to your number to simultaneously ring at your phone and NomoRobo's number. This feature allows NomoRobo to essentially screen all of your calls and pick up those that are on the blacklist. Finally, you enable NomoRobo call screening for the number you specify. You can disable this feature at any time. Now, after Steve studied NomoRobo, he thought it sounded too good to be true, and he got a little bit nervous about this. You're basically letting NomoRobo receive all of the phone calls that you're going to get too. He thought it sounded too good to be true, and he heard Bart whispering in his ear, "Follow the money." Since NomoRobo is free, what was Steve selling to them? He contacted NomoRobo and asked them, "How do you make your money?" They told him, "Our business model is based on licensing our blacklist data to carriers. The incoming call data from NomoRobo users powers the detection algorithm. That being said, your personal data is never shared with anyone else. It's only used to detect when one number is calling lots of consumers. Then NomoRobo knows to blacklist it." Now, what it's not clear to us what the carriers do with these blacklists themselves, at least we know that NomoRobo is getting paid by someone else for this crowdsourced information and not making their money from selling our personal data. I have to say, Steve and I love NomoRobo. When the phone rings, we perk up like a cat smelling tuna fish to see if it rings once or more. When it rings just that one time, you can hear "yes" throughout the house from both of us. It is so satisfying. I must say, when the American Red Cross name comes up and only rings once, it brings joy back into my heart. If you're in the United States, please join nomorobo.com and come to our happy place with us. All right. Any comments? I'm looking along. Analog phones, technically kidding. Pot's plain old telephone systems. I like. Ooh, you have a 55-minute chit chat across the pond and a 5-minute review of your own. Could do with a couple of drop-in pieces at least. All right, great. Yeah. Unfortunately, I have a really cool review of a product, but the product started to fail, and I think I need a replacement to get started. So I can't do that one. Maybe I'll come up with something while I'm on the road. Ooh, I should bring Mike just in case. What day are you going to do the recording, Alistair? Haley, there is a device, and I meant to look this up and ask Don about it. Don McAllister on an episode of Chuck Joyner's show around Christmas time, it was a gift list thing. He said there's a button you can get that you can press, and when you get one of the bad calls, you can press it, and it picks it up and adds it to the blacklist. So you might want to check that out. But it only worked in England, and so I didn't look into it. All right. I don't know what the name of it is, though. I meant to call Don and ask him. This week's Clarify ad comes directly and spontaneously from Alistair Jenks himself. Did I remind you got to send in some recordings for him? Anyway, in our Google Plus community over at podfeet.com/Google Plus, he wrote a post about his workflow with Lightroom. He was an avid fan of Aperture, and when Apple pulled the rug out from under us, he made the jump over to Lightroom. He explained in his post on Google Plus that he's really pleased with how simple his workflow is now, especially with his keywording process. He is a huge keyword nerd. He is way into it. I think you probably remember he was on the show talking about his keyword plan, and he is crazy about those keywords. He thought others might benefit from his processes, so he simply opened Clarify while he's processing a new batch of photos and recorded most of his steps by just taking quick screenshots with Clarify's built-in screenshot tool. He produced a professional guide over at zcarge.clarify-it.com, and of course there's a link in the show notes, where he goes through each step with just a little bit of text for each step. Great images, you can see exactly what he does. You too can help others and help yourself by recording the steps you follow in your daily computer experience. Remember that website, that link that he had, that's all free. You get that with Clarify. You press a button, boom, it's online. You can send people to it. It's really, really fun. Remember also that no matter how little you know, you have something to teach too. You might know a lot, and that's great also, but it doesn't matter how little you know more than somebody else, and you can help them. Head on over to clarify-it.com and get a free trial of Clarify for Mac or Windows or both for the sliders in you, and give it a try. All right. You're going to recycle the last one Al stole. Uh-oh. What is that? What are you going to call stealing my Clarify story again? You know, do you want me not to? Well, let's see. Let me think, Alistair. Do you want me to? Because I could probably come out with one. I could drop in chat right now, and I bet in the next 10 minutes I could come up a new one. If you want me to. You're going to recycle the last time I stole it? Let me go ahead and drop in Bart, and I'll wait while I see it. Bring in the washing. I'm going to drop in the chit chat music and wait until I see what you say. Favorites. I'm hungry. Need to go get some popcorn. Dumb question corner. You've never used it? Hey, it only matters that you buy it, Nick. That's funny. All right. Steve and Bart are here to talk about Pluto. Okay, get ready for symbols check, Steve. Are you paying attention? You ready? Let me see.
Hold on. I thought I heard you say dumb question corner. You mean the jingle?
Huh? No.
You said dumb question corner.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm just talking about what you said.
I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't mean to.
Okay.
Are you ready for this? Maybe I did. I'm hungry.
All right.
Let's see. I'm waiting to see. Let's see. I planned tip before, but you have verify. Okay. So, Alistair, you don't need me to come up with a new one? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the symbols check here, Steve. Or Windows, or both for the sliders in you, and give it a try. Too long.
Yep.
Retail. Let's see. There. And that's where I like it to start, right about there. Okay, how's this? Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Chit Chat Across the Pond with Bart Bushouts, and we have a lot of fun planned for today, huh, Bart?
We do indeed. We're literally out of this world.
All right, let's kick it off first with Security Light, and then we'll get into the fun stuff.
Okay. So just a week's worth of news, but it hasn't been a quiet week. So step one, Microsoft announced an emergency patch to fix a critical bug in all supported versions of Windows and unsupported versions of Windows too, actually.
I heard about this. Not a Patch Tuesday or anything.
No, this is just a
including Windows 10.
Yes. So it's a bug in TrueType fonts, which means that anything you can make display text, you can trigger the bug with. So that's basically everything, and it's in all versions of Windows.
Doesn't OS 10 use TrueType fonts? Actually, I'm going to stop this and jump ahead so you can hear some of Steve coming in. So we went about a half hour, so 30 on 23 is 53. Let's go. When did you jump in, Steve? Let's see if I can find it. I see.
Hasn't cleared that orbit.
Oh.
Us?
What was that, Steve? Oops.
Promotion when Pluto got its demotion.
Okay. Must not have been that long.
We're probably going to have a solar system with 8,000 planets in it.
Made sense that.
Okay, I went way too far.
$1 a year at this bullshit.
You keep talking. I'm going to go read that one. He said bullshit.
I put it in because it made my head explode, and I felt we had to share that.
Okay. Should I bleep that,
finally,
Steve?
No, I'd let it go.
It actually was BS. It's a story he was talking about. There's groups of people who are selling the service of, they have witches who will get rid of, make sure that your site can't get compromised by spammers and by hackers. Seriously. Oh, you're knackered? All right, bye, Haley. Glad you could come. Good luck with the transplant. Keep us posted. Let us know what's going on. I've been, I think about you often and hope that all works out well. All right, good luck. Go to bed. Get your rest. All right, yeah, what was...
Actually, does it give names? It may give names. If it gives names, we definitely should.
Joining you on this time.
Oh, here we go.
News.
All right. Well, thank goodness it wasn't a hot security week. Well, we have a special guest we're going to bring in. And I asked whether Steve and Bart would talk to me about what we've learned about Pluto. So, Steve, why don't you unmute yourself there?
Unmuted now.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Bart, I could not resist joining you on this topic.
Yeah, this is good.
Your idea even. So
this is going to be really fun.
Yeah. It was someone's idea that's not me.
I think it was Allison's, but I had to jump right in.
Yeah, so I wanted to get you guys on as I'll call you amateur astronomers at if I round up in some cases. Okay, I got to fix that. How did I'll call you amateur astronomer. God, how did I screw that up? Okay, I'm sorry. That bothers me that I screwed that up so much. Whoops. I think it's right here. Call you I couldn't say amateur. All right. I think. One second. I'm putting this back together. I don't know how I boogered that line up so much. I'll call you amateur astronomers. Ooh, she nailed it. Good. If I round up in some cases, right? But you guys are both really, really interested in astronomy and been riveted to watching the coverage coming out of the New Horizons trip out to see Pluto. And so we wanted to cover a couple of things here first and then get into the excitement of what have we have learned. But the first thing we wanted to talk about was, and I want to put this question to Steve because I've been badgering about it. It bothers me immensely when people get emotional about whether Pluto's a planet or not. And I was looking at it as, well, it's either a planet or it isn't. But I realized after talking to Steve some, maybe this is like how we get annoyed when a word gets added to the English language, or how annoyed I am that you're now allowed to end a sentence in a preposition. It's the same kind of thing. But why isn't Pluto a planet, Steve?
Well, first of all, in my heart it is, but I know that's not scientifically. It kind of made sense that they reclassified Pluto from its original classification as a planet to what they now call a dwarf planet. And the reason is, as we've discovered more objects in our solar system, namely those in the Kuiper belt, which is way beyond the orbit of Neptune, has a bunch of small bodies, circling the sun, orbiting the sun. And Pluto lies in that Kuiper belt, but we didn't know that. We discovered Pluto back in, I should say, Clyde Tombaugh discovered Pluto back in 1930, but no other objects were known out there in Pluto's area.
And the Kuiper belt was only, what was it, 1992, I think it was discovered.
I think that's when the first other Kuiper belt object other than Pluto was discovered, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I was sort of in my teens is when the Kuiper belt came from a wacky theory into focus, where we discovered one, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one. And the whole question really started to brew from then until it came to a head a few years ago, when someone said, we kind of have to define what a planet is, because if Pluto is one, we're probably going to have a solar system with 8,000 planets in it.
Right. In fact, astronomers did find another body that's actually, it's either more massive or larger than Pluto, called Eris. That's fairly recent, early 2000s. And there's a prime example. If you're going to call Pluto a planet, then you have to, by all rights, call Eris a planet as well. But that's just, as Bart says, that's the tip of the iceberg. There are thousands of these things out there, maybe not the size of Pluto, but still kind of in the same class.
So mainly the song would get really, really hard to remember the name of all the
memorizing them would be very difficult, especially in kindergarten, first grade.
There is also an important, this has happened before. So are you aware of the Planet series?
Yes.
No.
Well, when it was called a planet.
Yeah, it was a planet for 50 years. It was the first asteroid discovered. And it was exactly the same situation. They discovered Ceres, called it a planet, and then they found another one, and 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 another one. And then they thought that actually this is a terribly bad idea. It's not a planet, it's an asteroid. And so they invented the word asteroid to reclassify that whole belt, which we now consider to be a belt between Mars and Jupiter, the asteroid belt.
Yeah.
And Ceres actually got a promotion when Pluto got its demotion, because Ceres and Pluto are now both dwarf planets.
Yeah. And the only reason that happened earlier with Ceres was because it's the asteroid belt, which is much, much closer between Mars and Jupiter.
Between Mars and Jupiter, yeah.
Whereas the Kuiper belt is way the heck out there, and it's very difficult for us to detect these tiny objects.
So let me ask this question. There was a definition of what was a planet, and now there's they had to come up with a new definition after these discoveries, and they came up with that definition, which now excludes Pluto. What is the old definition and the new definition?
The old definition is it's a planet if we say it is. That was the biggest problem. There was no actual definition. Yeah,
that's why it took them, I think, 14 years to redefine it after they discovered the Kuiper belt.
Well, hundreds.
Yes.
I mean, planets have been defined for
No, but I mean, from when they discovered the Kuiper belt, that there were these other things the size of Pluto or on that order with the same kind of attributes, till they declared Pluto not a planet, there was quite a long time before the what is the body called, Steve? That
Eros.
No. I'm sorry. The group of people who define what is a planet.
The IAU, International
Astronomical Union.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So there was some time where they had to make that decision, right? So, Steve, what is the new definition?
All right. So, a planet is defined as a celestial body that is in orbit around our sun, first. Secondly, has sufficient gravity to make itself the shape of the sphere, and that usually requires mass. And third, its orbit has cleared its neighborhood, or that I should say, the planet has cleared the orbit. So there are no other objects or celestial bodies of significant size that are in that orbit or near that orbit. And that's the one that Pluto and Ceres have failed. Because in Ceres' case, it's orbiting with a bunch of asteroids. It hasn't cleared that orbit. And Pluto is orbiting with a bunch of Kuiper Belt objects, so it hasn't cleared that orbit. That's what put them in the dwarf planet status.
So Bart, wasn't there something also in the definition about it cutting diagonally? Like it's a orbit is not parallel to the plane that all the other planets are in?
Well, that's not part of the definition, but even before this whole hubbub about Pluto not being a planet, I was already sort of, I remember as a young teenager looking at these things going, Pluto is not like the other 8. Pluto is an oddball, right? And it's very odd.
One of these things is not like the other thing. One of these is not the same.
Yeah, right. So for a start, there was a time in the 90s, which is why it caught my attention, when the furthest planet from the sun was not Pluto. It was Neptune, because Pluto cuts inside Neptune's orbit for a couple of years out of its 250-year orbit. It's a really, compared to all the other planets, it's very elliptical. So at its closest approach to the sun, it's only about 30 times as far from the sun as the Earth is, so 30 AU. But at its most distant point, it gets almost to 50. It's like 48 or something.
Wow.
So that's a really big, well, they call it an eccentricity. So it's got a very eccentric orbit because it's quite a long way from circular. Then add to that, it's also on a tilt. So it's up at 17 degrees from the ecliptic. So, the other planets are like a degree or two off. And Pluto is off at 17. So it has always been an oddball. And that's why people started to get very uncomfortable when they started to find other Kuiper Belt objects, because they were like Pluto. They had eccentric orbits, they had inclined orbits.
Yikes. I think I better close the windows. Gardner's here.
And it suddenly became clear
thanks,
that
Steve.
there were a lot of things like this oddball. So it's not an oddball, it's just different
That
from
one's
the
open.
planets.
Okay. I did a little tiny bit of research on my own. Mostly I was depending on the two of you, but I was reading a Wikipedia article.
Wow, that's
and they've
still
referred
loud.
to those other planets that are out there in the Kuiper Belt as Plutinos. Yay,
They are indeed
Plutinos.
Plutinos, yes.
I like that as a name. Okay, I'm going to stop us there because of Plutinos. We went on and had a great discussion about Pluto. Kept going. We had a really, really good time. Will they ever collide? They actually, I think Steve talked about that. No, they actually will not. What did he explain to me? Pluto and Neptune will not collide because they are actually in a resonance with each other. That's the phrase they use to describe the difference. So they don't quite resonate, or they won't run into each other because they're in a harmonic resonance. So we're safe on that. All right, I'm going to go out here to the end and keep recording. I think Steve is going to be gone for a bit. He's been waiting to talk to this gardener for quite a couple of weeks. So here we go. Let's see.
And observing, yes, computing and observing.
Happy
You can do them
discovery. All right, that's kind of a clumsy ending, but that's where we went. So that's okay. I had so much fun with Steve and Bart in that discussion. I'm going to actually go back and listen to this whole thing again. I normally don't listen to the show afterwards, but because it's mostly me talking, but I really enjoyed that and I learned a lot, and I hope you guys had fun and you're going to run around saying Plutinos to people a lot. That's going to wind us up for this week. Remember that there is no live show next week. Alistair Jenks is going to be doing the show. Make sure you send in some recordings for him. He says he is definitely going to need some help. So get them to him, say, by Friday, because that turns into his Saturday. So make sure you get him some recordings this week. Many thanks to our sponsor for helping to pay the bills. Remember how Clarify helped Alistair to do his job there over at clarify-it.com. Don't forget to send in your dumb questions, comments, and suggestions. Email those to me at Allison@podfeet.com, and I will be sure to forward anything you send over to Alistair. Follow me on Twitter at Podfeet. And do check out that NosillaCast Google Plus community. I'm telling you, you learn stuff like how Alistair does his keywords in Clarify. I mean, there's so much fun over there. I should say how he does his keywords in Lightroom, documents it with Clarify. Anyway, I've been posting pictures, questions. I've got a couple of problems on my Mac. I could really use your help. Go over to podfeet.com/Google Plus and check it out. If you want to join in the fun of the live show in 2 weeks on Sunday, head on over to podfeed.com/live at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCastaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. Actually, I think I'm going to change that up. I want to do a little bit more in here. Let me see. Go over to Podfeed. Go over to podfeed.com/live on most Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time. This week we had a lot of fun because it was on an odd day and earlier in the day. We had Arthur and Nick and Stephen and Haley got there. And you know what I just realized? We made it at that time so that Nuris could be there, and Nuris didn't show up. I've got to give her a public shaming for that one. Where are you, Nuris? We missed you. Anyway, do head on over and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCastaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. Oh, good. A cheap imposter, a tool you use a lot. Ooh, we haven't heard of that. Nick, do it. Yay. All right. I just pulled that out at the last minute to realize that we made it last week. I asked everybody, I said, hey, what time do you guys want to have it? Nurse said 3:00. So that's why it was at 3:00, and she was not here. Stay subscribed. A little bit late. Let's try it again. Stay subscribed. All right. Let me stick these two pieces together. Do a little joining. Yeah, so that'd be nice to have a tradition like that. Nick, very cool. All right, bring in the outro music. Where are we going about there? Looks about good. My light is definitely flickering. I wonder if something's wrong with it. Keep thinking the power's about to go out. Show number 533. We have nailed it. All right, now let me pull this out. I'm hungry. I have had 2 cups of coffee and a bowl of cereal today, and it's 4:00. I need some popcorn, maybe some cheese. And then I need to go on a walk. What are you guys doing for the rest of the day? Actually, Alistair's day is just starting. So is Stevens. A lot of fun. Glad you guys could come. It's always more fun. Brett, and actually, where did Kim was here and she left? Where did she go? All right. Well, Alistair, I will be in touch. Alistair, do you want to give Nick your email address? It's fine if you guys send it to me and I forward it to him. I just I didn't get around to asking him what address to use. So let's check this. Something's bothering me. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeed.com. A technology. Oh, has anything changed? I don't think so. And luckily, unlike March, I'm just going to San Diego for a week. So, and I'll be on the beach with some family. So, and I'll have my laptop with me if anything comes up. Going to go watch train watching. Yay. I don't think anything has changed. I asked you and I didn't look. What day are you going to record? Let's see, I'm going to type it too. Just make sure I'm around just in case. You record on Saturday. Well, it's that time of the week again. All right, that looks good. And whoops. Oh, I didn't join all these. Let me bring this small because I made a couple of cuts. Is that all of it? Oh, I just made that one cut when I stumbled and sounded like an idiot. zcards@me.com. Cool. All right, guys, we are creating the mix down. I'm about to export it to disk. Thank you for coming. This is always more fun. You'll do it on your Sunday. So I'll make sure I'm around on Saturday. Well, I'll be around. Actually, I think do we come home on Saturday or Sunday? It's a long trip to be with relatives. Don't tell Steve I said that. All right. Well, thank you guys. I'm going to export to disk here in a second. It was nice seeing you, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Glad we got to get some folks that haven't been in a while. Nice to see you, Arthur, after a long time. That was fun to see you show up. Very good. So I am going to say goodbye, and goodbye to Alpha Geek Radio. Everybody who's there and the people on the app. We're going to say goodbye now. Goodbye. Bye, everybody.